The sun dipped below the horizon as Sarah and her friends set up camp deep in the forest. The group, seasoned hikers, had veered off the trail earlier that day to explore a supposedly haunted path locals warned them about. Laughing off the stories, they pitched their tents near a clearing surrounded by ominously tall pines. That night, the forest seemed alive. Whispering winds and rustling leaves played tricks on their senses. Around the campfire, Sarah thought she saw fleeting shadows darting between the trees but brushed it off as her imagination. As the night deepened, an eerie silence blanketed the woods, broken only by a distant rhythmic knocking sound. Tap, tap, tap. Curiosity got the best of Sarah. Armed with a flashlight, she decided to investigate, despite her friends' protests. The sound led her to a twisted oak tree, its trunk scarred with deep scratches. A faint, bloody handprint was smeared across the bark. Her breath hitched when she realized the tapping was coming from beneath the roots. Against her better judgment, she crouched down and aimed the flashlight. Something stared back, a pair of glowing eyes in the hollow darkness. The figure emerged slowly, a gaunt, humanoid shape with elongated limbs and razor-sharp teeth. Before Sarah could scream, it let out a guttural howl, sending her running back to camp. But when she returned, the campsite was in shambles. Tents were ripped apart and her friends were gone. Blood trails led deeper into the woods. Trembling, she turned to flee but froze when she heard it again. Tap, 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 this time directly behind her. The creature's eyes gleamed in the moonlight as it lunged at her. Her screams echoed through the forest, fading into silence as the sun rose the next morning. The clearing was empty, save for claw marks and a single blood-streaked flashlight. Locals later claimed it was just another hiker who got lost. But deep in the woods, that tapping sound still lingers. The fog rolled in as Liam and Clara hiked through the dense forest. They were following a little-used trail marked on an old map they'd found in a thrift store. The trail, called Raven's Hollow, had intrigued them with its eerie name. Locals in the nearby village had warned them to avoid it, muttering about the cursed hiker, but they laughed it off as folklore. By late afternoon, the fog thickened, making it hard to see. The usual forest sounds, chirping birds, rustling leaves, had vanished, replaced by an unnatural silence. Suddenly, they stumbled upon an abandoned cabin. Its rotting wood and shattered windows exuded an air of despair. Tired and unnerved, they decided to take shelter until the fog cleared. Inside, the air was damp and cold. Strange carvings adorned the walls. Spirals, stick figures, and what appeared to be warnings written in an unfamiliar language. Then Clara noticed an old hiking boot in the corner, muddy, torn, and still damp. "Someone's been here recently," she whispered. As night fell, a rhythmic thumping began outside. At first faint, it grew louder and more deliberate. When Liam peeked through the window, he saw nothing but fog. Then the sound came from inside. In the dim light of their flashlight, a shadowy figure emerged. A gaunt man with hollow eyes, his body bent at impossible angles. "You shouldn't have come here," the figure rasped, lunging forward. They screamed and ran, but the cabin seemed to warp, its exits looping back into the same cursed room. The next morning, search teams found no trace of Liam and Clara. Their backpacks were neatly stacked by the cabin's door, along with a single note scratched into the wood. "Raven's Hollow always keeps its own."